Ladies and gentlemen, we're here. We're back. I'm excited for this one because I've been waiting to get, this person on the show. She's somebody that's an influencer. You heard the whole intro. Branding coach. And by far, man, Jesus is rolling with her. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Michelle to the show. What's happening, fam?
Hey fam, what's up? I'm glad we finally get to make this happen.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this because, there's so many people that were saying, DMing me, yo, you should get on the show. You should make this happen. You guys got to collab of some sort. People that are listening right now, they're going through the show notes, clicking on your Instagram profile, trying to find out more about you. Tell the people about, where you come from, a little bit about your, your upbringing in life.
Yeah, so I am from Jersey, born and raised. And I actually, in my adulthood, I actually thought I wanted to be a criminal psychologist. So I went to school for criminology and psychology, but my life just completely just shifted. And here we are now. I am a lifestyle influencer and personal brand coach. And I just love all things community. I like to call myself the authenticity maven because I love and enjoy authentic storytelling and just getting into people's story. Like, who are you? Where do you come from? What are you about? I am huge on faith and influence and the ability to really bridge the gap between your values and your faith and really being about that life, right? Like really sharing the gospel or who you are with the culture and the people that you are impacting. And I think the reason why people just love my approach is because I am who I am unapologetically, but I also know who I serve and who I get my strength from and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Oh, that's crazy. I want you to take people back though, because like there's a mentality there, right? That you had to learn where you like brought up in the church. Like what was it that gives you that strong, that sense of faith and having that backing?
Yeah, so here's the funny thing, like my parents actually had me like later on in life. Like I have three older sisters. They're about 15 to 20 years older than me. So I kind of came as like a okay, little surprise in their 40s. And so, when I was born, they actually converted into Christianity. So I was kind of like the first generation to really grow up in the Christian faith. And so I grew up with those values. It was like super strict growing up in the church that I grew up in. And I was like, this ain't it. Like, Lord, this gotta be something different. And so it wasn't until I had like a personal encounter with God and he really changed my life. And ever since then I was like, okay, it's not about the perfection in a thing, but it's about really inviting him into those areas of my life, into business, into my relationships and community and friendships. And so those values were really birthed in the upbringing of my childhood and my faith. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Somebody's listening right now and they're trying to say, you know what, Michelle, how can I tap into some of those values that I learned that I might have forgotten about? Like, what would be your advice for someone trying to figure out, those core things that they stand for?
Yeah, I would say like on a more practical sense, like there's this app that I love. It's called the U Version Bible app, and it's so practical. It's so easy. You can go in there and kind of like search whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is that you're trying to like research or whatever you're just trying to find out more about. Like let's say purpose, right? That's a big one. Purpose,
Yeah.
identity, all that stuff, faith, all that stuff. So I would say in a more practical sense, like get you that app on your phone and really dig into what it means to find your purpose, what it means to what your identity is and like all that good stuff. Because I feel like when you are revealed to a deeper understanding of a definition of who you are, you operate differently. Like you
Mm.
do business differently, you show up differently, you recognize the value of what you've got to say and what you've got to produce.
Yo, absolutely. You know what's crazy? I think for people as they go through, those years in high school, right? From middle school to high school, for me, like everything changed when I was 14. I watched my brother go off to college and I learned something real quick, and that was how to dominate parties, right? So as you're growing up, right, from middle school into that high school era, what were some of those things that caught your interest that you start paying attention to and you start feeling like, I might have a play here. I might have a space here. There's something here that might resonate with me. Were there things? Was it subjects? Was it certain classes? What was it for you?
It's so crazy because I loved history.
Uh huh.
Um, I loved history, and it was so weird because like now I'm a writer, and I was not good at writing. Like I was not good at English. Like I just was not getting the best of grades. But I would say like history, and I think what it is that we're I'm so intrigued with the lifeline of people, right? Like where do you come from? I think I mentioned that earlier. How did you get to this point? What were the best things that what were the highlights? What were the low parts? And like because usually in history we're highlighting like dope people, right? Or we're highlighting people who have done something, right? And so I feel like if I were to pinpoint a subject, it was definitely history. And I know that's probably corny, but for me, like I was really into it. I was like, man, this is pretty dope.
Yeah, I think people sleep on history, right? It obviously gives us, that insight into who we are and how we got to where we are today. So, like, you go through, those phases, understanding those subjects, right, and then go off, right, to get into that 18 spot. Was college an option for you? And if it was, what made you say, I want to pick this university?
Yeah, so college was definitely an option for me, mainly because of my parents, right? Because my parents didn't even they grew up in old school like Puerto Rico, like they didn't have no shoes type of lifestyle. Like so I get this gift of learning like just like an old school like just mentality mixed with a modern day millennial kind of vibe, right? And so for me, I really wanted to go to school for them. They don't have anything past like a middle school education. And so for me, it was very important to educate myself. And even though I'm not doing what I went to school for, I learned so many just like work ethic values that I get to apply now, even being a full-time entrepreneur.
That's crazy. So like with your parents, going through that, that grit, did that put like a chip on your shoulder? Like, you know what, I gotta make it. I don't care how I do it, how I'm gonna pull it off. Like did that put, a little bit of emphasis on, your why?
Oh, absolutely. To see I still to this day remember the day of my graduation and my mom coming to me and she was just crying. And it was almost like she graduated as well. And
Mm.
so I shared in my accomplishments. So it wasn't my thing is that it was never even just about me. It was about my family coming with me, right? It was about the accomplishment that as a community we made together because there were sacrifices that they had to make as well, like not being able to spend time with me because I was out here studying in these streets, right? So
Yeah.
so I would say collectively it was about that community part and making them feel like they also accomplished this as well with me.
I think that's important, right? I think a lot of times, especially as people of color, we're like the first person in our whole family to pull it off, right? Like the
Yeah.
first generation and teaching those things. So entrepreneurship seems like a different angle for you, right? What made you say, you know what? I got this degree, I got this attention, I learned these things, but I'm ready to make a leap and make a bigger impact. Because let's talk about YouTube at the same time, because you're a huge influencer in that space. Like, what gave you the courage to say, yo, this is my purpose?
Man, I love questions like this because it makes you kind of like think back to the core of why you do what you do. You know what I mean? So surprisingly enough, my grandfather he actually was a businessman actually in Puerto Rico, and he would sell plantains. Like he would grow them. He would go around the we call it the barrio, right? Like the hood. And he would just go and sell it to the vendors and all these things. And so it's in me.
Mm.
I just didn't know it was in me until I got older. I was like, oh man, like my grandfather was a whole entrepreneur, right?
Yep.
And he even owned a bar in Puerto Rico as well. So it was always in me. I just never directly saw it. I just saw hard work and hustle with my parents to get us to where we were, right? And so even now, as I think about just entrepreneurship and being a YouTuber, you know, my life changed drastically in the public eye. Like I started my YouTube channel back in like 2015, 14, as a military wife. I was documenting my natural hair journey. And then in real time, my husband passed away. And I was like, well, God, like, what do I do with the platform that I've built so far? Like, how do I share my story in a way that is authentic? Like, I don't know. I don't know what life is gonna be like. I don't know what my life is going to be like a year from now. I don't know what to do, but guess what? I'm going to invite you guys in because I feel like maybe some of you, although you're not dealing with the same situation or scenario that I am in, I think universally, literally, like pain is so universal that
Hmm.
I think we can all relate to that. It's like a thread that kind of like brings us all together. And that's the part that I wanted to tap into. And that's the thing that kind of like allowed me to really thrust myself into YouTube because I felt like there was this like area that people were uncomfortable with, and that was vulnerability. And I was able to tap into that earlier on, and I was like, man, y'all, there's something here with authenticity. Like, y'all, like when you tap into what's going on in your world, you don't got to be out here telling your business and all that stuff. But I decided to go on a journey of unscripted grief and really me sharing my insights of rebuild my life from losing everything from a spouse to my money to my home and everything. And now like people get to chart how I've grown as a person and even just as an entrepreneur. So that's where even YouTube, like video, you know, video format content was really birthed from, because I was like, yeah, like people resonate differently when they get to see you go through something.
Yo, that's crazy. I want to break this down. You know,
Yeah.
my guy Mario Armstrong says all the time, vulnerability is the new currency. I want to break this down because
Mhm.
I think it was the documenting, you know, the realness of going through something with trauma, with you know, the loss of a loved one, right, and losing, you know, a significant other, a spouse, right. Like when that
Yeah.
happened, you know, I feel like, you know, and I'll let you explain it. When that happened for you, immediately, what was your initial thoughts, and then what made you say, you know what, the world needs to see how I'm going to deal with this and how I'm going to become stronger and become, to me, someone that symbolizes strength.
Yeah, absolutely. At first, I was kind of like, I was in such a dark place, right? Like, imagine, you know, I was like, I'm walking away from everything. Like, I don't really know what to do from here. Like, how do I continue on with this? And what I realized was that it wasn't that my life stopped. It was that this was a whole new book, not even chapter. This was a whole new book that
Mm.
I was kind of co-writing with my creator, right? Like I was co-writing this. And so as I was the vessel, as I was the face of telling this story, I had to trust that along the way, on my dark days where I just didn't want to get out of bed, and on my light days where I was like, okay, I'm ready for this. Like either day, I had to have the understanding that I was made for this, and that there were people out there that were waiting for me to respond and to gift them what was on the inside of me. And I think what the best part of it was that it wasn't perfect. There were videos where, you know, I couldn't even really speak. There were tears, and but there was always something to walk away with. There was always a lesson that I learned, because I didn't want to be like a Debbie Downer in people's lives. I wanted
Facts.
to actually show people that in the middle of something, there is something still beautiful that you can extract from it, and that's wisdom. And that's what life is. Like there are certain situations that we go through, whether it's that deep and serious or something like on a whatever, on a lighter note, that really like if we can just see the lesson in it, it really won't be as damaging or detrimental as our like first response to it is. If we could just identify, all right, what just happened here, and what am I supposed to learn from this? Like, how is this going to accelerate me or catapult me into the better version of myself? So yeah, that's what I would say in response to that.
I mean, that's real. I mean, and excellent advice. And as this happened, things start to take off for you. From a YouTube perspective, right? So,
Hmm.
as you saw your YouTube grow, like I want the audience to get some advice here. I want them to get secrets. I want them to get the tips. I want them to get knowledge and walk away from this podcast and be like, yo, this is crazy. As your audience started to grow, what are some of the tips you can give people that have, aspiring YouTube channels right now that want to see that plaque get mailed to them? What are some tips you would give them on how to grow their YouTube channel?
Yes. So obviously, of course, I wouldn't be me if the first thing I said was stay authentic to your story, right? Stay authentic to who you are. That's how you really can create dynamic and unique content, right? That's how when you stay connected to the core of who you are, you could really create some viral content, if you will, right? Or some
Yeah,
content that is really going to impact the community. You're not for everybody, but you are for your people. The second thing that is more practical is for those of you who have a channel who trying to figure out more data and like when to post and all these different things, look at your YouTube studio dashboard. The data in there is so key. Like sometimes people go into things like this blindly and they're like, I don't know what my audience wants. Well, that data will help you, like it's an indicator of how much time people are spending on your videos. What's the watch time? What are the views? Look at those videos that really kind of had the more watch time and people stayed on your video and watched the whole thing, like stuff like that. The third thing that I would say is create a dynamic series. Like when you create a series on your channel, it's a playlist. So what happens is if someone lands on the first video or the second video, the next video is going to automatically play. And what happens is that tells YouTube like, oh, hold up, this subscriber or this person is staying on there longer. And ultimately, you got to understand that YouTube is a search engine. You got to understand that. And when you understand that, you will create content that people are actually searching and finding out how that aligns to what you got to say, and how I said in the first point,
yeah.
how you can remain authentic to yourself. So I feel like those are really three. I feel like those are really three like really good ones. What
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
think?
yeah. I think those are solid. I mean, you can't fake realness, right? You can't fake being who you are, and I think that's how people really stand out. So many people, they watch what other people are doing, and they
Right.
aren't remaining themselves, right? So many people are listening or scrolling through Instagram. They're dealing with imposter syndrome. I think there's so many ways you can look at this because if you're going to create content, sometimes you got to get in the space and say, okay, what sounds like me? Like if I'm typing out a caption,
Mhm.
does this actually sound like something I would say? I think those are the things that's going to really resonate with people and help you stand different and help you stand out. I mean, would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. That's so good. Oh my God. And that imposter syndrome thing is so real. But I feel like if you have an understanding and a belief of who you really are and the value you bring, you are literally gold. You're
Yeah.
golden. Get
Beyond
that.
beyond go, and I'll be doing the audience a disservice right now if we didn't continue to talk about social media because you're obviously somebody that knows how to grow it. What's your thoughts on Clubhouse, man? What's your thoughts on this? What's your
I
thoughts
had a
on
feeling we were
Clubhouse?
gonna go that route.
What's
I
your
think
thoughts?
I meant so at first I was addicted, like everybody, right? Like
Yeah,
Shawn, I know we've been in some rooms together. I'm like, it was like we were always on it, and now
yeah,
I'm kind of like, you have to manage your time with that thing because with that
hmm,
app, you can get like FOMO, and it's like then
yeah,
it takes you away from what really matters. My audience is on YouTube and Instagram. I think Clubhouse is amazing for networking and kind of getting in on different dynamic conversations that matter. But I think at the same time, like, do not forget like where your people are. Like your
yeah.
people are on your other platforms, and so have your allocated time, because I think that like People be out here tripping, and you already know there's so much cap on Clubhouse. Let's not even go there because you already know.
Be a lot of cap. You know what's crazy? I think the quickest way to find out somebody really is about their life on Clubhouse is that when they start talking, you just got to start clicking and doing your own research. You know, I mean,
Please.
click it. You know, you can't be telling me you're this guru on social media, and then we go to your Instagram page and it's a bunch of birds and grass photos. It just don't add up.
It doesn't add up. And at the end of the day, you know what I love that what Clubhouse did? I love how they added the feature where you could just what? You could just swipe and you could hide the room.
Hide
And
the
that is
room.
exactly what that's my approach. I
Hide
just
the
hide the
room.
room.
You know the
Period.
craziest, the funniest rooms, and I tell people all the time, like those how to make $7 million in 7 minutes. I can't relate to that, fam.
Oh nah.
I tell people all the time. I can only relate to how to hustle while eating $5 pizzas at Little Caesars. That's the type of stuff I relate to. That was my life.
Right. Ain't no 7 minutes. Like what?
Seven
I just
minutes.
can't. Yeah, I'll hide a room so quick.
Whew.
But I mean, the app is powerful, but
Yeah.
I feel like you really have to measure yourself and really use it wisely, man. And like you said, like do some research because people
Yeah.
out here just
You got to find out what works for you, right? Hop into
yeah,
things that you feel like you can add value to the conversation. Like I don't really
yeah.
want to. There's a couple rooms I hop in for pure entertainment. I do not want to be pulled up. I'll be like maybe later, but there's some rooms that you purposely go into. You like, yo, I'm ready to give some value of some sort.
It's true. And honestly, it kind of even like gives room for you to have like controversial conversation. And not
Yeah.
controversial where it's like negative, but more so challenging, right? Like
Hmm.
last night, I did a room with Jackie and we did what Christian women can learn from Lori Harvey. And man, the conversation was so good. And we
That
just
sounds
talked about so
powerful.
many different elements about confidence and femininity and like
Mm,
all these different things. And I was like, that's controversial in a positive way
yeah.
because some people didn't really agree with what we had to say, but there were other things that we can kind of stem from that conversation, and it was just so good. So that's what I'm saying, like using the app for the better good, then just don't be about this cap life because it's
that's
ridiculous.
that's not the way to do it.
It's
This has
not the
been.
wave.
Yeah, so I want the audience to get this tip from you. I think it's important that they grasp this today, and I want to ask you the question that we just ask anybody who's ever hopped on this show, hopped on this platform, and that's the question of the podcast. Somebody that's either about to graduate college or perhaps they didn't graduate at all, they didn't even cross this stage. They're asking themselves right now, right? They're asking themselves the question of the show: School's over, now what? What advice would Michelle give?
Whew, do not get overwhelmed with the questions of life, of people, of standards and expectations of other people. Stay grounded in what your goals are. Set your goals, right? And set them to where they're actually humanly like attainable. I think that sometimes like we're so hard on ourselves if we don't meet certain goals, but I feel like if you set certain milestones and certain goals for yourself that you can actually track and build and complete, there's something about completing that makes you feel even better about yourself. So even if it's a day after or a month after or a year after you graduate, set those goals, but do not let people overwhelm you with those questions of like, so what are you gonna do? And when are you gonna find a job? And it's like, sis, bro, don't you not see me trying to figure this out?
Yeah.
So don't get overwhelmed. Do not get discouraged in your search. Don't get discouraged in your walk. Like keep doing you and just keep your eyes on what you see your life, the vision of your life. And that's honestly what I would say. Cause I remember that after graduation, it gets overwhelming. And if I could tell myself again, like, girl, it's okay. One day at a time. One day
Yo,
at a time.
fabulous advice. I expected nothing else. Like people right now that they're excited about this episode, they learned about vulnerability. They learned about how to grow to YouTube. They learned about how to really stand out. And I want people to know more about you. Where can people find you? Where are your social media platforms? Just give them all the handles so they can stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shawn. So you guys can find me everywhere at Love Michelle Anna. That's LOVE Michelle Anna and with one A. And my YouTube channel is the same, Love Michelle Anna, and my website as well. And you will find a lot of authentic content. You'll find some beauty, you'll find some lifestyle, and ultimately you'll find some light in this corner on these social media streets. So I hope that you guys go ahead and follow along. And yeah, like this conversation was so dope to me. Oh, I love it.
Hey, absolutely, fam. I appreciate you. And for those who have been listening, always remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it. Hey, what's up, fam? Thanks for watching. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button. We'll see you next week here at School's Over Now What. And always remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it.